On the eastern peninsula lived the Iberos, or Iberians. Iberia comes from the Greek word Iberos. The Greek named them after the river Ebro, which still flows in Spain today. The name came from the Greeks, who had also named the Kingdom of Iberia in the Caucasus, where modern-day Georgia stands. The Iberian Peninsula, however, was home to numerous tribes that often fought with each other and were not under a singular leader. They did not identify as a unified Iberian people. Lucius Cassius Dio, the Roman historian, noted that they didn't even share a common language. Their origins are debated between migrations from northern Africa or southern Europe and the Mediterranean. There's no real conclusive evidence for any of these theories. The Phoenicians, and later the Carthaginians, interacted and established trade posts with the Iberians long before the Romans were able to navigate the Mediterranean Sea. The influence of the Phoenician culture on the Iberians is clearly visible. They even worshipped the same deities, like Melkor and Tal. The northwestern region saw another group of early settlers, known loosely as the Celtic peoples. The Celts migrated into the region from Gaul somewhere between 1000 BC to 600 BC. Some sources say that the Celts came more in waves around 600 or 650 BC. There is debate on where exactly these Celts originated from in Europe, but regardless of whether they had originated further inland or that they originated closer to the Atlantic seaboard, is of no real consequence to whether we would consider them natives. The Celts were also pagans, much like their relatives in Gaul and Britain before the Anglicans and the Saxon invasions. They inhabited mostly the northwestern region of Hispania and established societies rich with Celtic culture and paganism. There is evidence that the Celts mixed with the Iberians or the other people in the region whom they integrated into the Celtic culture. There was also a group of people and tribes that the Greek referred to as the Celtiberians. They were not uniquely Celt or Iberian, but a somewhat mixture of both. They inhabited mostly the central region and existed in various tribes. They used the Iberian alphabet, but they communicated in the Celtic language. Another indigenous people that are still around today are the Basque peoples. Their origin remains a mystery, as they are unique and different to the other cultures of the region. Basques inhabited north-central Spain and a part of southern France. They are the oldest continuous inhabitants of the region, having their own unique culture and language, Euskara, or what we would call Basque. It is a culture that is unique from French and the neighboring Spanish people. Their genetic profile is also quite unique from the other regions in Spain. Their language is a language isolate. They were pagans who worshipped several deities, the most notable being Mari. The earliest mention of the Basque people can be found in writing dating back to the First Punic War. The Romans had a lot of trouble imperializing them, but we'll get to that part in the next video. The western region was inhabited by a people called the Tartessians. The Tartessos kingdom was the most advanced people of Hispania, a name that the Romans gave to the entire region. The kingdom fell to the Carthaginians in the 5th century BC. The Phoenicians also inhabited the southwest to the southeast coastal region of Spain, after defeating the Tartessians. However, there is evidence that they arrived and had small settlements on the southern coast around the 11th century BC. They established cities like Gadir, Cadiz, around 1104 BC. The Phoenicians founded other major cities like Malacca or Malaga. They later established cities like Cortuba, which we know as Cordoba in English and Cordoba in Arabic. The Carthaginians, who were originally Phoenicians that founded and settled North Africa, gave the region the name Ixapan, and it is possible that the Romans had taken this name and Latinized it into Hispania. The Carthaginians took over settling in Iberia from the Phoenicians around 700 BC. The Carthaginians had later conquered large swaths of southern Hispania around 237 BC, towards the end of the First Punic War, under the leadership of the Carthaginian leader Hamilcar Barca. His son, the famous Hannibal, even married a local girl from Castulo. The Phoenicians of Tyre had established themselves in the region because of trade, while the Carthaginians invaded because of the natural resources and precious metals that were there in the region. The Greeks had also formed a strong relationship with the Iberian Peninsula around 750 or 650 BC, according to some sources, and they founded a number of cities along the coast. The Greeks were responsible for introducing a system of coinage into Iberia, and they were well versed in the system of trade, often competing against the Phoenicians as they did in the rest of the Mediterranean. The Greek colony of Empúries became a center for Greek and Iberian trade. The Greek presence lasted until about 500 BC. The Greeks were interested in setting up trade routes and started their own colonies in the east coast to support their trade activities. All of these people, as different as they are from one another in terms of ethnic and genetic backgrounds, cultures, languages, and religions, are typically considered to be a part of the native population of Hispania, a region that we now call Spain and Portugal. There were many tribes and groups of people in Hispania that we haven't mentioned here, like the Turdetani and the Lusitanians. Much of their unique heritage is lost to history, while some remain as relics of the past. They were never united under one country or people, and they clashed quite often and fought with one another. And then came the Romans.